Hello, future people, and welcome to Great Uncle John's weekly video log. This is number 15, I believe. It is Sunday, April the 22nd, 2018. This past week was fun and spectacular, so there's lots to cover in this episode. There was so much real-life stuff going on that I may not get to the Trump news, but we'll see. Last weekend, Sunday, Great Aunt Carol and I flew out for a week's vacation in the Boston area. The last time I visited Boston was 1976 with my parents. We stayed with some old cousins of my mother's, the old maids we called them, two elderly sisters who lived together. And I remember driving in, sitting in the back seat of my dad's car and thinking how much it looked like the opening credits of Welcome Back, Kotter, my only experience up to that point of American urban life. We like visiting American cities, the great American cities, of which Boston is one. We've been to Washington and New York recently, and we enjoy spending shorter 4 or 5 day trips in American cities. We find that's enough for any city, I guess. We find it's enough to get a taste for the urban environment and see the sights without overstaying our welcome. So Sunday evening and Monday morning we stayed in Lexington. We wanted to see the sunrise reenactment of the shot heard around the world, the Battle of Lexington, that kicked off the American Revolution. And of course, when I say we, I guess I mean me, although Mrs. GUJ is always a good sport. Getting up at sunrise to watch a reenactment isn't really her thing, but especially this year it was cold and miserable and rainy and windy. Just like it was, I guess, across eastern North America. Just a really awful April morning, but we still enjoyed the festive atmosphere of the town that's still quite proud of its heritage. And we had a pancake breakfast at the Boy Scouts Hall, or maybe it was a church hall, and the Boy Scouts are putting it on. Very Americana. We quite enjoyed that. And after, we then drove to New Haven. We probably would have stuck around Lexington a while longer if it wasn't so miserable, but we wanted to warm up in the car, and we were soaking. So we drove to New Haven, which was my ancestors' first home in North America. They arrived around 1640 with the Puritans, so I always wanted to visit, and the old homestead that they had that we could find on a map, or that was found for us on a map, is now the headquarters of the Knights of Columbus, so we popped in there for a little visit as well. Lovely free museum in New Haven. We also visited the Museum of Natural History and saw some cool dinosaur displays. New Haven is a nice town. There is some money there, obviously, Yale University. We ate at Ordinary, a lovely cocktail bar in a very old building, and visited other sites around town, including the New Haven Museum. Then we backtracked back to Boston and spent a few days getting to know that city. And I also have some historic family ties there, as my grandmother and one or perhaps two of her brothers came to Boston from Cape Breton for work after World War I. One brother stayed on, and thus the American cousins there, the old maids. There was always a very close connection between Nova Scotia and New England, more so than between the Maritimes and Canada to the west. Boston has this cool thing called the Freedom Trail, which is a pathway of red bricks that you can follow to all of these significant sites, which of course we did. And Boston is really a wonderful town to walk around, a lovely mixture of old and new buildings. The weather was mostly crap, but that's okay. It didn't detract from our fun at all. You might hear a bit of cold in my voice. I came back with a bit of a sore throat, which is probably more the fault of the people on the airplanes than it is the weather. On Wednesday, we saw Joe Perry at House of Blues. Joe is the lead guitarist for Aerosmith, but plays his own stuff, and we weren't that familiar with it, but it was a good band playing classic hard rock type music, and Joe can't sing, so he had a few guest singers along. The best being this Thurston Howell III guy, who, despite his appearance, can really sing. I looked him up later, and his name is Terry Reid. He was a session, or I guess I don't know if he still works or not, but he was a session singer and player back in the day in the 60s and 70s, and I guess into the 80s, and we saw all the highlights around Boston earlier in the day. Bunker Hill was kind of neat. I climbed the tower there and almost died in the 5 minutes it took getting to the top. I reviewed the footage later, and it only took 5 minutes to climb, but it felt like forever, and I thought I would collapse. I'm such an out-of-shape old man. So we did that. Then we had dinner at the top of the Hub restaurant, which has a terrific view of Boston. And we had original Boston cream pie, which is not pie at all, by the way. It's cake. Who knew? I guess a lot of people knew, but I never knew. And then we finished our vacation week in Montreal, and we caught the Residents show before we drove back home. The Residents, who I'd not even heard of, really. I might have heard the name, but I hadn't been a fan up until last year when they took a sound I had made available through a free sound sharing site and incorporated it into one of their songs in their new record, and then I got dinged with a copyright notice for a YouTube video that used that sound. So needless to say, that was quite irksome, and I contacted the Residents, and Homer Flynn got back to me, nice guy, and they had already made the album, and there was no time to credit me, but they did send me a free CD, and I have no problem with them using it. I offered it up for free in the first place for that very reason, and they withdrew the copyright ding on me. So that's all good, and I became a fan. I started listening to their music and became quite interested in their sort of Dadaist, avant-garde noise rock that they make. Going back 40 years, quite a venerable band, sort of a Captain Beefheart, Frank Zappa contemporaries. And they put on a really terrific show. You know, Homer, well, Homer's the manager. There's rumors that he's also the lead singer, and Homer must be in his early 70s, and put on a terrific, energetic show. The man can howl. I'm going to be on another Residents album coming up. I Am a Resident, and it was a Pledge Music sponsored thing where you do a copy of a Resident song and send it in, and they picked a number of winners to highlight, but I think everyone's going to get a little snippet of the sounds they sent in, put on the album. I didn't win, but I'm hoping at least a bit of my noise is on that album, so I can say that I've been on 2 Residents released albums. But I am a fan now. Oh, where's my T-shirt here? Hang on, I got my T-shirt here, so I'll wear that at rock festivals and the like, and look really cool. We saw them at the Fairmont Hotel, or the Fairmont Theatre in Montreal, which is a super place to see a show. I hope to see the Residents again sometime. And so, of course, during all this, Trump slowly choked on his own noose of his own making. So really, it was the same old on that front. We just sort of laid in our hotel rooms watching cable news at night, and watched all the spin, and Comey releasing his book, and they're still talking about Cohen flipping, which is funny. You know, Trump just released a tweet saying he didn't think Cohen would flip. You know, if you've done nothing wrong, you shouldn't really have to worry about your lawyer flipping. I'm not worried about my lawyer flipping. So, you know, that's you of course, you future people know how this all played out, but honestly, it's it will be nice when this is over. It's been entertaining, but I think the writing is on the wall for Trump, and it's just a slow drip now, and I'm just like Trump. I'm sure he would like to see it finished as well. So anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to go rest my voice and maybe eat some ice cream, and take care, and hopefully we'll see you next week.